Welcome to AskACop.live, the podcast for real conversations on law enforcement and community engagement. Join your hosts, Veteran Officer Daryll Triplett and co-host Jessica Rivera, every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Get ready for candid discussions, expert insights, and audience questions that bridge the gap between the badge and the community. Tune in as we tackle important issues, share powerful stories, and connect with listeners like you. AskACop.live, where every voice matters.
And hello, everyone. We are back on another episode of Ask a Cop. We're going to bring it to you live, unfiltered, and the truth as best we can. My name is Daryll Triplett. Jessica Rivera is off today. So we have a very, very, very exciting show that we are going to, that we put together for you today. It's called Weaponization of Law Enforcement. Weaponization of law enforcement. Now, we all know why that is so god-awfully important here. We're going to have a very special guest join us here in just a minute. And he's no friend of, he's no stranger to the show here. But he's going to be joining us in just a minute here as soon as we get through a little bit of commentary. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in every Thursday at 8 o'clock to watch us. It's so important. And I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. And like I said, my girl Jessica is off today, which is no problem. Everybody needs a little time off, I guess. You know, we'll give her a little bit of time off or whatnot. But still, I want you guys to stay tuned. I want you guys to stay on the channel. I want you guys to go on and pour your drinks, relax, get you a stick if you need to, sit back and smoke your cigars and relax with me because you got me for an hour. All right, you got me for an hour. Good, bad, or indifferent. We're going to bring it to you raw and uncut. Unfortunately, you know, one of the things that I do not like about this show is that we always have to start off by paying tribute to our fallen officers. And it's such an important thing that we do. It's a ritual that we've done with this show since the beginning of its existence, and we'll continue to do it because these guys have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. Okay. And there's no other higher calling. And it talks about this in biblical and stuff like that. And y'all know I don't be getting biblical with y'all, but you know, it talks about giving your life for your fellow man. Okay, now I don't know the passages and stuff like that, but I know it says it in there. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to take a quick 1-minute break of silence for our fallen officers that's given and paid the ultimate sacrifice for you and me. We'll be right back in 1 minute. Okay, and we are back with a very, very, very special guest. Like I said, we always have to pay tribute to our fallen heroes. And nonetheless, we have Stephen Turner with us once again. Steve, how you doing?
How's well? What's going on, brother?
Man, it's good to see you. It seems like I see you more on the show than what I do in real life.
Yeah, man. About 2 hours away from each other, man. You know how it go.
Well, you know, yeah. Well, you're south of the city, and I'm north of the city. So, but when we do see each other, we always have a good time, always laugh and joke and just have a great time. But man, hey, thank you for joining. the show once again. You know, you're always welcome to the Ask a Cop show, no matter what happens. You're a good friend of the show, and we really appreciate you. So, you know, Steve, you know, we have a couple hot topics, and Jessica and I, she's off today. We were going to cover weaponization of law enforcement, and I know you're just as skilled to talk about this also, and we'll bring the slides up here in just a second. But you know, it's crazy, especially in today's climate, how some of these politicians weaponize the police. They weaponize us. You know, and a couple things I could think of is that I remember getting called to this a call to a elementary school. Oh, it was a middle school. It was a middle school, and the teacher called, or I think she was the principal, and one of the students there, I mean, cussed this lady out, up and down, up and down. You F-bomb, 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 B, right? She's just cussing her out, let her have it. So the principal gets upset, and of course, she calls the police, right? And so we get there, and we're like, well, yeah, it's wrong for her to be calling you, saying F you, and BBB, but that's not against the law. This is still the United States of America, still a free country. There's not really too much we can do. Well, she took a chair and threw it against the wall. I said, well, is that your chair, or is that chair belong to the taxpayers of the county? So I was like, there's nothing we can really do about it. So a lot of times people weaponize the police, thinking that just because something offends you, that it's against the law, and that's not the case.
Right.
You know, so I know you've had plenty of experiences like that also. But you know, hey, she got.
Yes, I was trying to call you out.
Huh?
I said, yes, always people trying to call you out to their house to handle their little kids.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a parent matter. That's not a police matter. I said, if it violates in our state Georgia code, right? Then okay, you call the police. If it violates your parent code of, you know, little Johnny ain't doing his homework, little Johnny did this, little Johnny ain't eating his lunch or whatever, that's a parent problem, and there's not really too much that we could do about that. And you know what's crazy is she got pissed at me. She called my lieutenant, and you know, they told her the same thing. And I said, you know, hey, congratulations. Guess what? Join the crowd. We get cussed out all the time.
Right.
We get cussed out all the time. If we can't do nothing about it, really neither. You know, so
right. So I wish we could, and never would have any success with it.
Never would have no success. As a matter of fact, they would probably be the ones in the comment section saying how wrong we are. It's crazy. So yeah, so this is always a great topic to cover. It's always good to sort of get into weaponization of law enforcement, because you know, a lot of people do not know what weaponization of law enforcement, and not only just law enforcement, but the government. You're talking about prosecutors, DAs, military. It goes a lot further than just the police, you know. So just weaponizing law enforcement or the government in general, it's a problem, you know, and we should put everything in perspective and use everything where it needs to be. So, but we also have another, well, I don't want to call it, we have another segment of this show that we're going to dive into, because Steve called me earlier this week and brought me to light on another issue, which we're going to talk about also. And we will talk about that also. But for right now, let's go ahead and take our quick first commercial break, pay some bills real quick. You guys relax, pour up your drinks, smoke your sticks. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break We're going to be right back.
With over 50 years of experience and a perfected 100% American-made manufacturing process, Tallman Pools sets the standard for excellence in fiberglass pools, spas, and tanning ledges. That's right, our pools aren't just pools, they're works of art. Meticulously crafted to bring beauty, relaxation, and endless enjoyment to your backyard. And when it comes to quality, Tallman Pools doesn't cut corners. Ready to take the plunge? Contact Tallman Pools today at 770-478-2257 or shoot us an email at contactus@tallmanpools.com. Visit us at 8993 Tara Boulevard, Jonesboro, Georgia 30236. Tallman Pools, where luxury meets craftsmanship.
Hello, everyone. It's Daryll Triplett with All Cops Ain't Bad. I just want to take a moment to thank each of you for your continued support. Whether you're tuning into our podcast or attending our events or making a donation, you are making a difference in the mission of All Cops Ain't Bad. So thank you for being with us. Let's keep pushing forward, bridging people together, and continuing this important work. Together, we're stronger. Okay, folks, and we are back with Stephen Turner on Ask a Cop Show. Today's topic is weaponization of law enforcement and government. Hello, everybody. Everybody share the live. Come on in here. I see you guys. I see you guys. Oh, wow. We're up to 2,298 streams right now. Okay. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Let me get this up on my chat box here. Gallagher, I see you. I see you. I see you, Fred. Gotti, I see you. I see you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys so much. We have with us a very good friend of the show, Steve Turner. He's been on a lot with the show, years and years and years of law enforcement experience, traffic Nazi. I would say that, right, Steve?
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
For many years.
How many years?
Now
How many years do you have?
15.
15 years.
Well, I mean, at this point, 26 years public safety now, but 15 years was spent running.
Wow, we and
we're getting old, man. We're getting old.
Oh, because when we started, so we've known each other at least 25 years? It has to be.
It's been up there.
Yeah, because
probably around that 2000. I don't know. It was somewhere around that. Yeah, 20, maybe 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
2002.
Yeah. It's up there. So believe me, I know Steve very well, and he's very knowledgeable when he when it has to come to law enforcement stuff like that. And Steve, tell me what you think about weaponization of law enforcement and the government, stuff like that.
I don't like it, man, because it's, to be honest, I'm experiencing an issue right now with the HOA, and it's no different. The problem is knowing what you can do and applying it the wrong way. So it's like a police officer. And I try to teach my daughter this. It's like, I'm the guy that can say, I saw you run the stop sign. And guess what? Even if it's not on video, you'll be prosecuted because I said I saw you run the stop sign. And that'll be just enough to get somebody that you just don't like. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the one that you can't prove, right? Unless you have a video, full video in your car, and you come to court and you testify and show that video, obviously. But, outside of that, it's one of them things where, I can just put something up against you and basically, I ain't gonna say ruin your life, but the reality is police and courts and everything else have the opportunity to take things and really ruin lives with it. I mean, it doesn't have to involve anything that you've done. It's just what they say you've done. And we see it out here, and I think it's getting progressively worse because they're getting better at it due to the technology that they have to beat. So a lot of things are happening now, and people are becoming smarter because video cameras out there. So how do I become smarter to avoid that, or how I become smarter to get around, the stuff. Like if we look at Tory Lanez right now, I know people everybody's not watching this stuff, or dug deep inside these politics of celebrity world, but guy been in jail for what, months now, and all of a sudden some guy wants to come out and say, well, he wasn't the guy who did it.
Now wait a minute, tell me about
it's
this. I'm
like
not familiar with that. What is that about now?
So Tory Lanez was the guy who shot Megan Thee Stallion or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Is. And so supposedly the driver bodyguard supposedly saw the third passenger in the vehicle fire the gun and not Tory Lanez. So just weird that now all of a sudden he gets stabbed in jail 14 times, and then now you guys want to come to light that he shouldn't be there.
Are you kidding me?
It's kind of
so how long has this guy Tory Lanez been in jail?
I want to say at least 6 months, and probably a little bit longer than that. But he's been there for a minute, and so now you guys have waited this long.
Of shooting her or no?
Yeah, he was got convicted, yeah. And now some eyewitness comes forward and says, "Well, no, he really didn't do it." I'm like, "Where were you when they went to court?" But this is kind of like a perfect example for the weaponization, because these things happen all the time where people know the facts, but they will not come in because they do not want to go against the government or go against the police officer who they know that can come back on you and get you also. So you better keep your mouth shut, or we're gonna come after you too. So I don't know what this guy's moral or whatever his, what his thought process was, or why he didn't come forward at first. Wow. But here we are. But it's too late. He's already I think he's already surpassed the appeals process and all this other stuff. So your words are really not going to pull him out of jail, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's really a shame because you're playing with someone's life, and the truth, or and maybe it would have still ended up the same way.
Probably,
but
yeah. I mean,
at least you would have came truth with your truth, And another thing I want to tell you real quick. I'm not going to call the officer's name, but he's a good officer, and I know him, and I know that he did not intentionally meant to do this. But I'll just tell you another thing about sort of police powers and sort of what we say goes right in the weaponization part. So I know this officer. He pulls over a car one day for no seatbelt. Right? He walks up to the car, and the guy says, "Hey, why did you pull me over?" And he says, "You didn't have your seatbelt on." And the driver of the truck says, "Yes, I did. It was like a box truck." He said, "I have my seatbelt on, officer." He says, "Nope. I seen you. You did not have your seatbelt on." Okay. So the guy is swearing up and down he got a seatbelt on. It goes to court. Well, this guy brings in so the officer issues him a citation. It goes to court. This guy brings in the rear view mirror footage of the cabin of the truck, and sure enough, this guy had a seatbelt on. But this officer swore in his mind that he's a good guy. He's like, I really thought that he put the seatbelt on when I walked up to the car, and that's what he testified to, and he was dead wrong. He was wrong. And he admitted he was wrong. Right. And the city ended up having to settle that lawsuit because that came a lawsuit. And it was in a tune of about, I think, $5,000 or $10,000 that they had to settle this thing for. But
just for a ticket.
Well, technically, he was claiming false arrest because he stopped him. He detained him while he wrote the citation and all that other good stuff. Okay. So they were able to settle out of court for about, I think it was either $5,000 or $10,000 or, around that number there. But,
and I'm just going to guess because the officer never said he could have been wrong. He was just saying that he was absolutely right. Is that what it is? I mean, I don't understand how they would.
Right. So
how they would win a lawsuit like
was saying that when he walked up to the car, that he did one of those old sneak attack things. He put the seatbelt on, click, about time he gets up to the car. So, but guess what? You know, sometimes in people's mind, it plays a different scenario. You may think you see something and it didn't. In this case, they were able to run the video from the dash cam back prior to the stop, and this guy really had a seatbelt on. So again, what is the credibility? How that makes you look in court? It makes you look like you're just lying and stuff like that if people don't know you. But it was an honest mistake. Right. But still the city had to come out and they had to come out the pocket for that one there. So let's talk about let's jump into the weaponization of law enforcement and stuff like that. So, and Steve, you're a good one on this one here because you got years and years of experience. And bring up the first slide for weaponization of law enforcement here. Okay, all right. What represents weaponization? I can't speak. Get it out of law enforcement. All right, go on to the next slide. Steve, you know how we do it. I take one, you take one, and we'll run it that way. Okay.
Gotcha.
Weaponization of law enforcement introduction. Discuss the use of military-grade weapons for law enforcement. Now, I do want to first jump into this here because there has been a question, and you will see throughout this slide presentation, is there a need for military weapons for police officers? And in my opinion, the answer is very clearly yes.
And you got to also understand what is considered military weapon, because everybody think everything is a military weapon. That they'll call a AR-15 a military weapon. No, it's not. You know, an MP5 they'll call it a military weapon. It's not. You know, but yeah, there are things definitely that are needed.
I mean, now, do I think that officers need to be walking around with grenades strapped to their chest? I mean, come on, of course not. No, right? But if you're getting weaponry from the military, that's a green light.
Could you imagine the damage? Could you imagine the lawsuits?
With grenades?
From the first grenade launch.
Oh, you're not coming out the house, are you?
All right. Well, that's what I was
Fire in the hole. There just went 3 houses.
Right. You want to hit the end of this crap, man. Well, not hit the end of it.
Leave them up a little bit so I could comment on them. I can't see. Okay. He says, this is getting interesting. Okay. So I do believe that there are certain weaponries that should be allowed for police takeover, because you got to think that we're already outgunned out here. Most departments are carrying 9mm or 40s, 45s, stuff like that, regular handguns. And the bad guys are carrying banana clips, extra high capacity magazines, stuff like that. Yeah, so, we're already outgunned. The only thing, and you know that the same with police, the only thing your handgun is good for is fighting your way back to the car to get your long gun, and probably what you should have bought with you in the first place. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I do think that there is room for military style weapons in law enforcement, and some, like, I don't think grenades and stuff like that, because I can't see us.
Wouldn't be trusted, man. You could not. You could hand it out probably to SWAT only. And I don't know if I would trust all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I could just see a patrolman or driving around going to 911 calls with a grenade in the back of his car, in his trunk, in his posse box in his trunk. That wouldn't be good.
Never hit the end of it.
Right.
Either.
Yeah. The first time that trunk explodes, you never hit the end of that. Okay. All right.
All right. Militarizing police departments, equipment 1033 program, and Homeland Security grants. All right. What's the 1033? That's something.
No, 1033 is the program that authorizes the use for the government to be able to surplus equipment to local sheriff's offices and police departments and stuff like that. That's what the 1033 program is for. Yeah.
Gotcha. It's got more to go to the bottom here. I know.
No, I think that's it for that slide there. Yeah. But again, when we're talking about how about the case on the others you discussed in the last episode?
Yeah, whatever you got to speak on the last episode.
Hope his case is going well. Okay, so if you're talking about on the last episode, I believe that we were talking about heck, I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone what I did last week. Were we talking about the officer who ended up shooting the 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid that produced a gun at him, and then the father went and ran him over?
Oh,
yeah, we talked about that last week also, and we spent a significant amount of time on it because it was so important that, you know, I wanted to really address that, you know, you got to look at the whole circumstance, and you got to look at, you know, you can't just be so, you know, a knee-jerk reaction on that, because this kid did have a fully loaded magazine, an extended magazine, and he did have it on him, you know, and he's running from the police.
And I play devil's advocate. You know, police officers also got to think about the team and not themselves. You know, a lot of times when we are doing things, and not to say that this situation was that, but when we are doing things, we got to understand that, you know, being a little rough sometimes or being out of pocket sometimes can result in bad issues for the department and for our team in general, because people will retaliate. You know, and he was just an example of somebody who just was either number one fed up, or his son was just all he had, you know. And so when it's just all they have, they're going to respond totally different than any other person anyway. So I don't care what you did. It really wouldn't be a result that you could have come up with regardless, you know, besides doing your job. So a lot of times, a lot of these officers out here have to understand that, man, you know, sometimes the consequences are a response from people. Shoot, my guys, even now, you know, in the security world, get told, one of my guys got told the guy was going to come back and kill him today, you know. So, you know, a lot of people, you know, they have their thoughts and their imaginations, and you got to take it serious.
You know, like I said last week, I'll say this week again here, is that if that happened to me, I would be devastated, and I would be furious. I'd be smoking mad, but I'd be smoking mad at my son, because you know better than to steal a car from Kentucky, joyriding around in it, running from the police, carrying loaded guns, all this other ridiculous stuff. Because see, if none of that was in the equation, we wouldn't even be here. So he made a poor decision. And I can see where he got it from, because his daddy made a poor decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, if that's what you're talking, you know, thank you so much, Joy. Thank you. Good to see you again. You know, it's one of those situations where it's rough, and I don't want to see anybody lose their life. Let's get that straight right now. Not no cop, not no civilian, not nothing. But when you're going against criminals, which this kid was doing a criminal act, sometimes these things happen, and you got to be able to tell them. I tell my kids all the time, when confronted by the police, shut up. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Do what the officer says. That's your best chance of survival.
Yeah, so really the only guarantee. Well, I wouldn't say that. I can't say that. I would say the only guarantee, but you don't have that. What's that?
So, okay, going to the next slide there. Okay, militarization of police departments. Wait a minute, hold on a second. One of my slides is offbeat here. Okay. Excuse me. Common equipment provided. I'm sorry, this one's not in my slides here, but that's cool. Armored vehicles, rifles, firearms, ammunition, body armor, and helmets. Those come in handy for smaller departments. you got to think that smaller departments who don't have a $25-30 million budget, this comes in handy for these guys, because these guys have still got to enforce the law in their jurisdictions also. Night vision goggles, utility trucks and cargo vehicles, surveillance equipment. It comes in handy. Generators and communication systems. You're out on the scene all night with a murder. You have no generator, no way to light it up, no nothing like that. You're going to miss something. So yeah, I do believe, honestly, that there is room in law enforcement for programs like this. There has to be, under the 1033 program, there has to be room like this, because these smaller departments, they simply couldn't afford this stuff. They simply couldn't afford this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go on to the next slide. So, thank you.
Militarizing police departments. Critics say police seen as soldiers. I don't see that. Qualified immunity. I think that's a normal one. Us versus them mindset. Unnecessary. People have their feelings. Culture of violence. And then distrust and fear. Let's talk about the culture of violence. I guess you can see where some people would come from with that. They would say, a lot of people think there's too many police killing too many innocent people, blah, blah, blah. And so they would say, I guess, would use that as a reason. Going back to that qualified immunity, what a lot of people don't understand is we still have laws, and the laws still have to be followed. So no matter what your feelings are, qualified immunity only applies to you when you follow the law or the policy as it was written. Then you would have qualified immunity. Walking up to somebody knowing that you've done something wrong, and you know what you're doing is wrong, and still doing it does not absolutely get you qualified immunity. So the whole policing and soldier things, well, guess what? If I'm up against a soldier on the street, I'm gonna look like a soldier. You can call me what you want to call me, because if a guy comes at me with a AR-15, I want to meet him with the same. Who we should really feel sorry for are like the police in Colombia and Mexico, where they are completely outgunned and really outmanned, and then come back to us and talk about how we do things, because we just happen to have a little more control versus those guys over there who literally could do one wrong thing and their whole family could be killed, just as a result of doing your job, and not even have to be doing anything bad against anybody, just simply doing your job, man. So yeah, it's a lot here that a lot of, I'm sure, comes from what do you call it? Like just the people that are upset with law enforcement in general.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and another thing is, so with the qualified immunity, you're absolutely right, and I want to delve into that just a little bit more. Is that qualified immunity? You still have to follow the law, right? You still have to ability, opportunity, jeopardy, right? You still have to meet the same standards of care as anything else, but there is a margin of error that cops are going to make, right? It's just human nature, right? For example, because we're human, you may think you see something that you may really think you see, but it's not factual what you see, right? You should get, we call it tunnel vision. We're just staring down that tunnel or whatever, right? So there has to be some leniency towards qualified immunity for those mistakes like that. Now, I'm not talking about a pow pow, whoops, oh, he didn't have a gun, my bad. No, right. I'm not talking about that, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, for example.
Hold on for a second. So the qualified immunity, perfect example is the one that you just talked about with the lawsuit. He thought he saw the guy take his seatbelt off. He wasn't lying, or man, we don't know if he was lying, but we're just gonna assume that he wasn't lying. He was telling the truth that he thought the guy had a seatbelt on. And guess what? He's covered on the qualified immunity, but they still got sued. So it doesn't mean you can't be sued. It's just they're gonna look at it as the officer was just doing his job, and unfortunately, you can make mistakes. It just happens.
It happens, and on that officer's body camera, because what people don't realize is, I think it's like 10 seconds before you cut your overhead lights on, it rewinds back, and you can hear the officer saying, "This guy doesn't have his seatbelt on." So he really thought that this guy did not have his seatbelt on, and you can see him flip around and go get him, and then all this other stuff. So that's why we didn't fire the guy and stuff like that, because you have to allow for some error of margin. Now, what I applaud that driver for is not getting out the car, acting stupid, trying to fight the officer, trying to argue the officer down, all this other stuff. He simply took a citation and he handled it in the court the way that it should be handled in court. Because there's a lot of civilians who would have argued, fought, and they would have fought their way right to jail, and your vehicle's getting impounded, you're getting maced and tased and all this other stuff. And guess what? You're absolutely right. But the actions that you're doing to try to prove that you're right is wrong. So you're right and wrong. So
I'm gonna went to jail and wasted all that money for
no reason. When you could have simply just went to court like this guy did, bought his attorney,
and got a check,
and got more than what he would ever had to pay for the citation. That's why I'm saying on court is, if you know that you're right, bring your evidence to court, and the judge immediately dismissed the case. He immediately dismissed the case. What does that say? I hope the officers.
They wish that other officers from other countries could follow us, because he loved us. Cora loved this man. They love you, Triplett.
Oh, well, thank you so much, man. Hey, man, we do our best on this show here, man, because we do the show for you guys, and you guys said you wanted it, where officers talk straight, and we bring you the truth, good, bad, and the ugly, and you got it. And that's what you're going to continue to get with this show here. So it's just that simple. We're going to bring you the raw dog truth. If the police is wrong, then they're wrong. We bring you that also. See, 50-50 right down the line. And then that way,
we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that. Oh, yeah. Yep. I got something for you coming up, folks. All right. Is it me? Okay. Militarizing police departments. Okay. So you do have some supporters of militarizing police departments. Then you have some naysayers. Of course, you're going to have that, good and bad. Enhanced capabilities, which it does. Like I said before, some of these departments cannot afford the specialized equipment that the military may have. For example, ballistic vehicles. Okay. Those ballistic vehicles probably run, I would have no idea how much the military pays for those vehicles. What do you think, Steve? You're in the military.
I mean, military-wise, probably upwards of 300,000, depending on what it is. Depending on what it is. I mean, if you get, you get something closer to what president has, you're probably gonna spend 500 to 700,000. But if you're on a lower grade, something like a Humvee, they probably are spending about 500,000. That's only because of military pricing. But if you were to come out here and armor out a like a patrol car, you wouldn't pay as much. Maybe 100,000 all in for a armored police car, because they do them now. Like on some of the Ford Explorers, they put ballistic panels, and then they put the like the bullet shield, the thin shield glass on each window. That'll basically it'll stop a bullet. It won't take like a major firefight, but it'll stop a few bullets from penetrating the glass. But now the door panels will stop some heavy artillery.
Well, when you're talking about like militarized vehicles and stuff like that, you're talking about $400,000 or $500,000 per vehicle, and that's some police departments, smaller police departments' whole budget.
Yeah, they would
never ever be able to afford anything like that, and still we require them to respond to active school shooters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or they would think they wouldn't need it, because, who's to know? We got such a small town with such a small budget and not so many people who's to say we're gonna need these things, and then it happens.
I agree with Core Jeff. You're taking them down too fast. I can't see them. Yeah. Okay. No. I mean, when you're talking about budgets and stuff like that, it's something that they gotta be. And like I said, they still have to respond to the, I don't know why any department in this world in today's climate would ever think if you have a school in your jurisdiction that an active shooter couldn't happen. That is not forward progressive thinking at all. You should be drilling for that. You should be exercising for that. You should be talking to your school principals and teachers and staff members with stuff like that, because it can happen at any time. And you need to have the equipment to respond to stuff like that. And that's where the programs like this, the 1033 programs and stuff like that come into effect. So yeah, we don't want to walk around looking like militarized police departments and stuff like that, but there is a need for it. It is added protection for law enforcement. Is this the next slide? Oh yeah, this is you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's the same one. It's the same one.
Oh, it's the same one. Okay, yeah. Added protection for law enforcement and war on drugs and terrorism. That's another one. When you're hitting these drug houses, Steve, you hit many of them. I've hit many of them. You're hitting these drug houses. You're going up to the house. You start taking fire. Heck, you can't even get to the house to even get to the drugs because of the first. We got to deal with this idiot shooting at us.
Right.
So yeah, there is a place for militarized equipment in law enforcement, night vision, stuff like that. 2A, the Second Amendment. All right. That goes without saying, right? Everybody's entitled to the Second Amendment, and guess what? That includes your police officers too, right? That includes your police officers too. So yeah, I agree with like I said, to a certain point though. I don't think we should be walking around with rocket launchers and grenades and also, but I'll tell you another good one also, Steve. In some rural countries, is what about choppers?
Yeah, I mean, I think every police department needs one, but every police department obviously can't afford it because choppers are just very, very expensive to maintain and operate. The operational cost is outrageous.
Oh, it is. It is. We actually got one for a local sheriff's office under the same program, and I don't think they have it anymore.
No, so we let it. Our last day, we let GSP come in and take it.
Also, GSP got it.
Yeah, GSP came in and took it through that military program, the USO.
Okay.
The USO program came and took our helicopter and smiled as they flew away from us. Yes,
that was a bittersweet feeling.
Yes. They were happy because the whole thing was outfitted by us, so they didn't have to buy anything. The darn expensive paint job, all that stuff taken care of by us, and not by the county. So,
wow, yeah. And another thing is that when you get equipment like that, it's great for your lost children, vehicle crashes, car chases, stuff like that. I think. Did you guys have flare in that helicopter also, or no?
Not yet. We were getting it because the county wouldn't give us any money for our helicopter. They said nope. We got one budget for one helicopter, and that belongs to the police department. So we're not giving y'all a budget. So everything we did, we had to do on our own. So, wow. There was no. We had nighttime flying, but there was no finding no one in the dark.
So you could fly at night, but you couldn't really see.
Yeah, we couldn't see.
You had a spotlight, right?
Yeah, no, we didn't have a spotlight either.
Oh,
we had nothing,
what
man.
it
was a military grade. It was an OH-58 helicopter, and we just had the normal spotlight, not like the light that just shines in the front of the helicopter when you're landing, but it wasn't anything that you could shine down and see at 100 yards, nothing crazy.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, we had nothing. We had radio, flashlights, and guns. That's it.
Oh my God. Well, hey, it
Great
looked
pilot.
good.
That's what we had.
It did look good. I remember that helicopter.
Yeah. The helicopter was amazing. It was amazing being up in the air, man. Just doing it. It
Yeah.
was a great thing, man.
Yeah. And so again, guys, going back to what we were talking about was that, yeah, I do believe, and Steve, I'll get your thoughts on this. Yeah, I think that militarization or military equipment can be cross-promoted and used in law enforcement. And that's just my thoughts.
You said the what could be used?
I say that military equipment can be cross-promoted and used and have a viable place in law enforcement.
Yeah, just proper use, proper issue. Because even some uniforms are issued from military. Like a lot of SWAT team gear comes from the military. When the police departments, ask for it or request it, it's good stuff.
Well, yeah. And so now this one here, guys. So Steve brought to my attention. I'm sorry. Yeah, Steve brought to my attention this week, early part of this week. And I apologize that we don't have these slides readily available for this. I thought the producers loaded them up on here, but I don't see them on here. But we can, my regrets to Jeff. We didn't forget him. No, we did not forget Jeff. We'll never forget him. That's my buddy. I just talked to him last week. He's a good guy. Yeah. So Steve, I will let you start this one off here because this is sort of interesting.
Yeah, beyond interesting. So, we're talking about the officers who were just found not guilty in the Tyree Nichols case. I don't have the officer's name. I don't really care to have their names. What I found out by doing some more research is not technically, but these officers were actually found guilty by federal court.
Federal court, yeah.
Federal court. So they are still going to jail. So I was happy when I read that. However, a state court felt like they didn't commit murder, which I think is weird as crap. Because if you look at the case we just talked about, where you had the stop sign violation, the guy found that he had a seatbelt on and the officer was wrong. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, like you said, had that guy done something to encroach this officer, to make the officer pull him out the car and do something to him, of course it would have been bad for him, only to find that the guy did have his seatbelt on, right? And so it went the way it was supposed to go. Nobody got to fighting, nobody got to arguing, nobody got into bad terms. It was just one guy made a mistake and gave out a ticket, and guess what? It was found not guilty, and the guy got to, get his reward, right? for having a seatbelt on.
So imagine $5,000. You got paid to have your seatbelt on. Hey, Lizzie.
Paid to have your seatbelt on. So imagine that, and then let's put this in this Tyree Nichols case, where these officers pulled this guy over for what they believe was reckless driving, only to find out that there was no evidence in the end, no evidence to suffice that he had ever had any type of reckless driving incidents before they pulled him over. Imagine that, and you get pulled out the car by 5 officers, and 5 officers come and beat you lifeless. Now, a lot of people will say, well, he should have just not fought back. Do you think that would have mattered? We don't know. We weren't there. We're not Tyree, right? And number 2, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but it's not against the law to fight an officer for unlawful arrest. And I think a lot of times some people do test that water a little bit more than others. Whereas there's some people that have went to the extent of shooting back at officers when they knew that they hadn't done anything wrong. The problem with that is now I got to fight it out in the courtroom because the officer is always going to win on the side of the road. It's going to take you to jail anyway, only for it to be found that you did nothing wrong. But guess what? Now you just put your life in jeopardy, because if they shoot back at you and they succeed, now you're dead and you don't have a story to tell. And now the officers are only going to be found through video, if it ever exists, or some other means, but it could never exist. And so here you are, a person like Tyree Nichols, thank God that they had video that saw this complete stop. They saw them beating this man senseless, and they really couldn't come up with a story for it. And for the life of me, I cannot understand how the state court jury could say that they were not guilty of the crimes that they actually committed. It's so weird.
I did a little research on this too, my friend. Now, first off, there were 5 officers who was involved. 2 of the officers were the primary aggressors. Okay. 2 of the officers were the primary aggressors. They already plead guilty.
Right. That's okay. That's one of the plead guilty. Okay.
These 3 are the ones who they charged them with these crimes, and they didn't do anything to contribute to Tyrese's death.
Gotcha. Okay.
They didn't stop it, which is the same, but they didn't I guess hit him with the baton or put a knee on his back or something like that. That's from what I'm understanding. Okay. So yes, they got found guilty on federal charges for lesser offenses, not murder,
like dereliction of duty or something.
Dereliction of duty.
I didn't read what the federal charges were. I just saw that they were still going to jail on federal charges.
Right. So that punishment hasn't come down for those 3 on the federal charges yet.
Right. Yeah, they were waiting on a state trial to find out.
Right. So here's the thing, is that we have to take the emotions out of it, because if you're emotional and you're buckling to the public pressure of charging these 3 officers with the highest capital murder or whatever they charge these guys with that they did not get convicted on, now it's called double jeopardy. You can't go back and recharge these guys with that, right? So I would have said to the prosecutors and them, I know it's an emotional time and it's horrible what happened. It's horrible. I think that I can't even imagine. I couldn't even imagine something like that, right? And I don't think that they charged them appropriately. I don't think they charged them with the correct charges. And I think when the judge spoke to the jury, they said, hey, how you doing, Jacoby? That you will look at A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and not Z, X, and P, right? So when you get these guys that now these 3 are off, you can't charge them again for that.
Right.
It's done, right? It's done. And maybe they did not contribute to this poor kid, to this poor kid's death, but you certainly didn't stop it. And there's got to be some type of accountability for that. I understand civil stuff and all this other crap, which is, okay, whatever.
And here's the thing, you gotta look at it. So look at it obviously from a civilian standpoint. If I was inside the bank while my friend was robbing the bank, I'm obviously gonna get charged with robbing the bank also. So I think a lot of times people are looking at it like, well, they should suffer the same, because if he's getting charged with murder for killing the guy, you were there, you didn't stop him, you should be charged with murder. And that's probably why they charged him the way they did and started looking at, well, I guess say looking at law, but anytime they charge a civilian, they're gonna charge both of you guys for being there. If one person did the murder, unless that person spoke up and said, no, it was definitely him. I didn't have no involvement in it. He said he was gonna kill me, he was threatening my life. If none of that stuff come out in the wash, obviously, and unfortunately, and these guys, and I guess since like you said, you've seen everything and how it's come out, it's probably better for them now. But on that video, it didn't look as great for all 5 of them.
No, it didn't look great at all. It didn't look great at all. But when I say that, I still think that they should have been found guilty on but they can't be found guilty on it because they didn't charge them with this.
Right.
The feds charged them with it, dereliction of duty. I think it was violation of oath of office. I can't remember what all they were then, but they were lesser charges than murder. But I do think that they do deserve jail time for that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because you caused the death of somebody, or sat there and did nothing.
You had a choice. When we raise our hand and we take our oath, we swear to protect against foreign and domestic, right? We swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States. We swear to protect the innocent people, right? Now, whether they thought this guy was innocent or not, surely a reasonable person would know that he shouldn't have been freaking beaten to death.
Right.
At the hands of cops.
Right.
And that's just the truth. So, and I have very mixed feelings about that because I understand the law and I understand the practicality of applying it, but I think we drop the ball when we don't apply it correctly and charge people appropriately because it gives the defense attorney an out. And these prosecutors are worried about getting reelected. Judges are worried about getting reelected. But it gives the prosecution or it gives the defense attorney an out. Yeah, but this law says A, B, C, D, E, F, G. My guys did not do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's just that simple. Now, what I like to talk about now is where's the news media coverage of this?
None. Doesn't exist. Does not exist, man. It's
that's what I think is bullcrap.
Yeah, it's amazing. And this right here should come to show everyone watching anywhere in the world how, well, of course you already know, but how U.S. media does things, and they only do things for sensationalism. It's only about, if you went on one of them shows that you're always on and you brought this up, they would mute you. They would say, they would move on to the next topic, all this other crap. They only want to talk about what they want to talk about. And it's so weird. We know what it is, but obviously, it's one of them things where we can't prove it right or wrong, but we see it and we know it's only the obvious. You guys haven't, I haven't seen, like any other time, my social media will blow up on everything. This, you heard about it day one when they got found not guilty, and I found it by chance. It was just by chance because I'm always on Twitter because I trade the markets, so I'm always looking for the news to trade the markets with, and so this just so happened to pop up. Other than that, I would have never saw it. And I think I was the only person on my social media page that posted this. Nobody else was talking about it.
I seen it. That's the reason why I gave it a thumbs up and likes. I'm getting cute for a commercial break here. Let's take a quick commercial break here, and then we're going to jump back into this segment here. It's a hot topic between Steve and I about Tyrese Nichols' murderers being set free. Stay tuned for this quick commercial break. Okay, and that was a commercial for our Guardians Ball that's coming up. We want you to sponsor a table. If you know your boss, if you're cool with your boss, and they have a budget to sponsor a table for the Guardians Ball for the emergency fund programs with allcopsaintbad.org, please get on allcopsaintbad.org and sponsor a table for September 28th at the Guardians Ball. All right, so that's an important event that's coming up, and that's just a little disclaimer there. So getting back to Tyrese Nichols now. I think that it's pathetic that NAACP is not involved. Black Lives Matter is not involved. None of the originals that would have been there, if those were three white officers getting off,
Antifa, all these guys. Nobody's showing up. Not a bottle thrown, a
Nothing.
rock cracked the window, nothing.
Because there are 3 black officers. And just because you black, that does not give you a pass. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. It's straight down the road with me, folks. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. And these 3 guys were wrong. Maybe not in a murder sense,
right,
type of thing,
but
they're definitely wrong.
Somebody did die
because
and it was an unarmed black man.
That's right. They had a hand in this kid's death, and they did nothing about it. They didn't say a mumbling word about it.
They didn't save his life.
The community.
Yeah, they didn't save his life. That we do know for sure.
Right. They didn't take it, but they certainly didn't save it. They didn't save it. And it did one little blurb on the news cycle that I seen. And but if there were 3 white officers, oh my God, we'd be tearing things up and rioting. Black Lives Matter. Ben Crump would be. Where Ben Crump at?
Right. Yeah, I ain't said nothing.
Where Ben Crump at? Right. He would be on the news talking about how this has got to end and stop and stuff like that. A black life or any life is a life. And if it's taken erroneously, then it's taken erroneously and someone has to pay for it. Now, some people may say, well, yeah, he shouldn't have been running. He shouldn't have been fighting and stuff like that. I get all that. And I agree with you on that. Okay. I agree with you. He should not have been fighting. He should not have been running, no matter what the issue is. But at the end of the day, when the cuffs go on, the beating is to stop. The fighting is to stop once he's secured. Then this kid's laying there on the side of the car, and there are paramedics that are there. And I understand the police didn't let the paramedics work on the kid. It's ridiculous, man. Come on, man. And this is the type of stuff to where I say that BS is BS. I don't care if they're white officers, black officers, Spanish officers, whatever. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And these guys did fail to do their duty as far as, and sometimes doing my duty is saying, hey, God, okay, fine. Okay, back off. You're too hot. I got it from here. Let's get
this. It doesn't take much to pull an officer off. And I know, obviously these 5 work together. So, they know
some type of specialized unit.
You said what?
They were on some type of specialized unit.
Which it makes it even more, heartbreaking because again, now I really know your temperament. So, hey, let me save you by pulling, you not only did they take a life, right? But what you did there was allow your brother to never be able to do this again. Like I'm allowing you to never be able to do this again. It's almost like getting in the car with somebody and allowing them to drive 100 miles per hour. Right. I know the potential of us both dying. So now I'm allowing you to take our lives and never be here again to see the next day. You are allowing this to happen, knowing the possibilities and knowing the potentials for it. It's like, it's why I understand dirty cops that watch, good cops that watch dirty cops do bad things, or good cops watch good cops do things that it could be questionable. I even talked to my daughter about it. It's like, she sees, her upper echelon come in and make bad decisions, and she has to tell them. Now, I said, you be telling your sergeants and lieutenants? She said, yeah, I tell them, man, don't come on my scene with that stuff. I say, right. you have the right, don't get too crazy because these supervisors, but always tell them, yeah, let me control my scene. Don't come in here trying to amp things up. Let me handle this, because it's a lot of times, the good cops can come in and not want to stop another decent cop from doing things. I used to try to stop, I'm not going to name names, but a guy that went on to be a homicide detective and got on a very famous show. I used to tell him all the time, man, you got to stop searching these people's car without consent, man. He's it's okay. They're Mexican. It's Mexican. Listen, brother.
Oh, wow.
I'm about to leave. I'm going away from this because I'm telling you not to do it. And I remember one time me going to tell the sergeant about what he was doing, and I got cursed out. So I said, you know what? Yeah, we ain't doing this no more. So I'm gonna stay out of it. Anytime I hear him come out on the radio, I just want to show up because I don't want to get put in the mess because I took it up, 2 chains, and y'all did nothing about it. It's all good. And then to my surprise, I saw him on a TV show, and I know how he got there. He got there off a bad arrest, and I tried to do my part. Wow. I didn't want to end up the dead guy on the side of the road, so I stayed out of it. But this is the reality of things that happen, man. And sometimes trying to pull people out of it just doesn't work. But at least you have to try. If you don't try, then you're just as bad as they are. But I didn't like it. I didn't like that. When people just don't follow good policing rules. Because in my mind, good policing is always going to get me a good case. That's just the way I see it, because my report's going to be right. I don't have to worry at night that, oh man, I sent this guy to jail for 50 years because I lied. Because I lied and said I found something. It's just not me. I just couldn't do it. I don't understand.
Me neither. If you can't get them, you're just going to have to wait till you can get them.
That's it.
And I know everybody wants to get the bad guy and be the hero and all that other stuff, but you got to do it right. If you're doing it wrong, you're just as guilty and just as bad as the guy that you're arresting. And I tell people
it happens all the time.
But I tell people all the time. They say, the name of the 501c3 organization is All Cops Ain't Bad, and you have some people that say all cops are bad, because even the good cops that know the dirty cops don't tell on the dirty cops. And that's not the case all the time. It's not the case all the time. You have some cops out there who have spoken up and has totally gotten railroaded, whether it was fired from the department, whether they're accidentally shot in the line of duty, or whatever the case may be. But you do have good cops up there who stand up for the wrong that bad cops do. And I think that, that's why I say that you can't say that every cop is a bad cop. Just like you can't say all black people steal. You can't say, so you just can't say that. It's just simply not the truth. So when we're dealing with things like this, we've got to be cognizant of just doing a good job. And if you can't get them, then you just can't get them, and you'll have to get them on another day. Trust me, they're going to be there tomorrow. They're going to have a dope. They're going to make another drug run.
Criminal is a criminal. They can't shake it.
Yep. They're going to make another drug run.
If it was a one-time thing, then guess what? They're gone anyway. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But a criminal is a criminal. They are always going to develop them habits that cannot be broken.
And when I seen your post and you talked about the Tyrese Nickel thing, and that how there's such a bias in covering because these 3 officers were black, and maybe it wouldn't have got the oomph that it would have gotten if they were white, 3 white officers. I think there's something to be said about that. And I think it's something that, us as a community, we should be outraged with. So are we only just going after the white cops who shoot and kill unarmed black men? Absolutely, we should go after them. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Full force.
Call it selective.
Right. But
selective outrage.
Selective outrage. That's what it is. You got 5 black cops who's involved in the death of 1 black man, and mum's the word. Matter of fact, I don't even know what the 2 officers who actually was the 2 main culprits of it pled guilty to, and what their sentencing was.
Yeah,
you just don't hear about it anymore. Just crazy. I don't know, man. Like I said, we've got to get better as a community. We've got to get better in being fair down the road and to everybody. It doesn't make a difference whether these cops are white or black. At the end of the day, there's still a man dead, and it's at the hands of the police. And that's unacceptable when it's not following the law. Ability, opportunity, and jeopardy. When it's not following the law and things like this happen, it is unacceptable. It's inexcusable as a community. we're not a community of animals. We don't just make this up as we go.
Right.
And we should be just as outraged that these three, I'm not saying go out and riot and all that other stuff. No. But I'm saying that we should hold them to an accountability. And we'll never know what the jury was instructed. And not unless one of the jury members talk. We'll never know what orders the judge gave, not unless the judge comes out and says something. But we do know that these three officers who was involved in the death of this young man is set free. Now, I don't know that to be right or wrong because, I think that they overcharged them. I do think that. And I think that ended up biting the prosecutors in the butt. Is what I think.
Man, it does all the time too. And sometimes they go into it knowing it kind of perfectly matches what you're saying, weaponizing the government, because a lot of times they can do that on purpose to have the outcome like this.
That's
A lot of people don't really think of that like that, but they know that they have to do something, so they do something, but they make sure that something is going to come out the way that they want it to come out, not the way that the people hope for. And people will be outraged and they'll say, well, we did everything we could to, match you guys. And so the people don't understand that charging somebody with murder when all the things are not
elements
there
of the crime is right.
Yeah, so
is not murder. It's involuntary manslaughter or something like that. Just saying, right. And then they do that knowing that they will never get a murder conviction for these officers.
Yeah,
they know. And I think that's what it was with this case here. But it's just sad to see that as a community, we're not outraged by this, and we're not showing the type of support for this young man that I think that should be shown. And that's just my 2 cents on it. And when I seen you post that, I thought that was very admirable. And I really commend you for bringing that to the forefront. And that's why I wanted you on the show. And I wanted to talk about this. This is going right with weaponizing law enforcement. All right.
It's interesting to slide. When I saw that nobody was speaking on this matter, I'm like, this is strange. This is very weird. Why is no one speaking on something that's so technically monumental, really? I mean, because when the video came out, it was,
all over the
bad.
place.
Yeah, but now it's like, not guilty.
It's like
kind of weird.
All right, yeah, whatever. Yeah. What's next on? It's just crazy to me. I just can't fathom that, because I just look at it to where, as a cop, we just should not be playing the race card.
Yeah.
Whether it's black or
white. Did it get more radio time right now than anything else?
Yeah. Which I'm so sick and tired of hearing about anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, man, I want to thank you for joining us on the Ask a Cop show. And you're always welcome to come back anytime. That's our time, people. My name is Daryll Triplett, and I'm here with Steve Turner. We want to thank Steve Turner for coming in. And Jessica is out today, but Steve actually did a really good job filling in for her and everything. But anyway, this has come to another end of the show, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want you guys to all like and subscribe to the channel at askacop.live. Until next Thursday, we're going to see you later. Take care, love each other, and we'll see you later. Peace.
All right, brother.
Hello, everyone. Right. It's Daryll Triplett with All Cops Ain't Bad. I just want to take a moment to thank each of you for your continued support. Whether you're tuning into our podcast or attending our events or making a donation, you are making a difference in the mission of All Cops Ain't Bad. So thank you for being with us. Let's keep pushing forward, bridging people together, and continuing this important work. Together, we're stronger.